Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are tuning in from in our glorious world. I'm Philip, and this is my podcast, Education and Spirituality Matters, where matters is both a noun and a verb. Up to you. Today, I'm really excited to welcome my guest, Darren Brookes, who's somewhere in sunny England, and I'm coming to you from sweltering Chiang Mai, where it's about 40 degrees, but I'm in my aircon little office at home. So very good to see you, Darren. Thanks for coming along.
Good to see you, Phil. Not quite that warm over here in Stoke-on-Trent.
How are you doing? I've been hearing about an unusual May. Has it got better recently?
It's been a little bit up and down. Yeah, it's a bit crazy, as the British weather always is. You just try not pay too much attention to it. It's lovely when you go out and it's a nice day, but I just get done what I need to anyway, Phil, regardless of the weather. I'm not. Yeah, take it as it comes. I think you have to.
Yeah, sure. And as I think our viewers are going to find out, you're probably quite a busy man anyway. Now what I wanted to do, you're not, by the way, everybody watching around the world, Darren's my fifth guest, and I'm very happy to have him on. I've met him through our online connections. I think in today's world, we all know quite a few people online, but haven't actually met in person. So one day I'll do that when I get to England. But meanwhile, what I know about Darren, and I'm going to ask him to confirm this in a minute, is I know Darren's an author. I think he's written 2 books, maybe 3 books. He'll correct me in a minute. And I see Darren as a motivator and an entrepreneur. Now, I love the topic of motivation, but anyway, Darren, perhaps you could expand on that. Who are you? Where are you from? What's the work that you do, and why are you doing your work?
Yeah, so I've written two books, Phil. I've actually written 3. 2 are published. First one, Dreams to Goals, which is probably about tapping into that inner potential, what you've got, and 23 Rules of Life that most people don't want to hear, which is probably more focused on those things that will take that power away from you. So if Dreams to Goals is about tapping into your power, 23 Rules of Life is about the things outside yourself that will take that power away from you if you let them. The third book, Man, is written, but I was going to release that on International Men's Day this year, but it's going to be next year because I want to really get that out to a bigger audience if I can. And the YouTube channel in process at the moment. And I predominantly work with men, Phil. I work with men to become the best version of themselves. I've got an exciting program coming up called Fearless Fathers, which is aimed at entrepreneurial dads, about balancing the business life with being a dad, because I think a lot of people can neglect that as they're on this business journey, where to me, you've got to make sacrifices, but one of them is certainly not sacrificing that time with my daughter. That's always in the top of my mind, that to make her part of this journey with me, to be as much a part of my dreams as I am her dreams, really. I think that's essential. So one of the rules in 23 Rules of Life was your children will watch what you do far more than they will listen to what you say. So it's important to show them, not tell them.
Mentoring. Mentoring, being the mentor, yeah?
Being a mentor, yeah, being a mentor and being a leader. These people, Phil, that think they aren't a leader because they haven't got this high-level corporate job. You're a leader in your own home. You're a leader of yourself. And I think that a lot of people forget that. They don't see themselves as a leader because they haven't got a position where they may be leading a team, but you're leading a team at home.
Well, you've just mentioned one of my favourite words, and it's something I teach in the university classrooms: leader. Now, I'll tell you, Darren, I am in Thailand, but I do try and keep my finger on the pulse of what's going on in England and so on. But I never see any society discussions or debates, or even just explorations of what is a leader. In other words, when I say what is a leader, I mean what is a good leader. It's a leader that we like. So what is a good leader, and what is good leadership? So you've just mentioned that word. I think it's so important, especially in our day and age, because the only leaders, inverted commas, we get are destroying life, and that's not the purpose of a leader. So can I ask you what your view of a good leader is?
Yeah, first and foremost, Phil, and I completely agree with you. As you know, we've had a lot of conversations around that, is leading by example. doing what you, not expecting other people to do what you would not do yourself, being congruent with what you say. I remember a story that I think has lost me a few jobs. That when I worked in the catering trade, I worked in the kitchen and helping out one day. I was glass collecting. It was in a chain, Yates's, that's no longer in Stoke-on-Trent. Well, it's in Newcastle-under-Lyme, but it's not actually in Stoke. That one closed down, sadly. But I worked there for a few years. And I was helping out on a bank holiday Monday. And bank holiday Monday, for anybody that's probably been in a Yates's, knows it's a busy day. So the kitchen closes early because it's full of drinkers. I was helping out with glass collecting to do them a favour, and some guy threw up all over the back of the toilets, all in the urinals. And it wasn't the manager. The manager was an amazing guy. It was the second in command came up to me and said, "You need to go downstairs and clean all that up." And I didn't know what it was on about. I went down, and this sick was everywhere. And I came back up and I said, I'm not cleaning that up. I refuse to do it. And he said, "You've got to do it. You know, I'm the boss." I said, "Look, I work in the kitchen, and I'm doing you a favor by working out here. I'm not going to go and clean that up." Where, Phil, if he'd have come up to me and said, "Listen, Darren, come and have a look what's happened down here. Can you give me a hand with this?" And it was the fact that he wasn't prepared to do that, Phil. He was expecting me to do what he wouldn't do himself. And I refused to do it. And he went down in the end, and he had to clean it up because he couldn't get anybody else to do it. And I've had many a time where I was in the rehabilitation unit, you know, leading a team, and then I would never, ever ask any of my staff to do anything that I wasn't prepared to do myself. It was always to lead by example. Obviously, you know, you've got to delegate when delegating is necessary. But there's so many qualities to a good leader. But I think the top one is to lead by example. Yeah. Keep those promises to yourself, and what will happen is people will follow that lead because they see that you're congruent with what you say you're going to do.
Yeah. See, that's interesting. I think that, you know, when you're a leader, there's always a new moment where you've become the leader of a new group. The group has just recently formed, and you've mentioned that a good leader has to delegate, and that is definitely an act of necessary leadership. But I think what I do, and I'd have to think more, but I think what I've done in the past is that I will make sure I've done anything before I delegate it. In other words, as you say, you do everything by example right at the beginning, right from the beginning, and people see what you're doing and they take note subconsciously. And as with your example, the relationship that you then had with that chap, broken, probably irredeemable, whatever he does after that, because he wasn't prepared to help out. And I absolutely agree with you. A good leader would get somebody to help them out. So yeah, totally, by example.
And I think, you know, as far as the family aspect goes, Phil, when you've got people who will say, "I can't get my son or my daughter, they're obese and they won't exercise." Have you looked in the mirror? You know, have you looked at what you look like? You sat in, you're asking your children to do something that you don't do.
Yeah.
Will not make sense to them. There'll be so much confusion from that. One of the things that, you know, I will tell Ellie is that you can do whatever you put your mind to, whatever you want to be, you can achieve that. But at the same time, I'm chasing after my own dreams. Later on in life, granted, you know, I haven't always been on this path, but I couldn't tell her to chase after her dreams when I'm not chasing after my own, because it just would not make sense to her. So it is, you know, that do as I say, not as I do. It's a terrible thing as a parent or as a business leader. You've got to be living it.
Yeah, totally. Okay, let me ask you what might be a difficult question, but you might have thought about it, because I've heard this before. Wherever I go, because I've traveled a lot, I've been to many countries, and I go for a lot of not holidays, well, travel really, more than anything. And wherever I go, I observe, because I'm a teacher, I'm an English teacher, so I listen to the language. I want real usage of language. So I observe and listen to conversations very carefully, as well as be part of them. And I've seen countless parents telling their children to do something over and over and over again, like the same thing 5, 6, 7 times. it's crazy because the kid's not listening to them because it doesn't mean anything. Now, why do you think that this is such a common feature of parenthood, where the mum or the dad keeps telling the children to do something as if the parent is the boss and the child is not? Where do you think that sort of behavior comes from? Have you thought about
yeah,
that?
that's a great question. You know, if you've got to continuously ask your daughter or your son to do something, then there's something in my eyes that you were doing wrong yourself. Um, it all starts with you. There's much as responsibility as you take yourself. um, I've asked Ellie before to come off the phone, and she's turned around and said, "Well, Dad, you're on yours." And I was, she's pulled me up on my bullshit, Phil. And there's nothing I can say because she was right. So how can I ask her to do something that I'm not doing? So if a parent is having to ask that 4 or 5 times, then straight away you've got to look at yourself. If your staff aren't performing, you've got to look at, are you performing? You serve them. You work for your staff, in a sense. And if you're a CEO, you work for them. They don't work for you. And I think you've got to work for your children if you want them to work for you. And yeah, it's interesting when you say that dynamic. It's that talking down to them. They're not gonna, you're not gonna get the respect by talking down to them. It's um, and this can backfire on you. We've both me and Ellie's mum, we're not together, but we've got a great parenting partnership. And we've said before that to ask her to always question everything. So then when we've asked her to do something, she went, "Well, why do you want me to do it? Why is that? Why is it?" And then started asking like loads of questions around it, being inquisitive about it. But that's how I wanted to be. I wanted to question everything, not just take it on face value. Well, why do you want me to do this? Why? What's the purpose of that? And being aware when you are. So if I'm asking Ellie to tidy a room, and there's dishes all in the kitchen and the house is a mess, you've got to look at that. You've got to be aware of what you're doing or what you're not doing. I think that's really, really important.
Well, it's totally important. I agree. And you've just mentioned about where your daughter Ellie asks you questions, and a good leader not only is prepared to answer them, but welcomes the questions, because it will also actually help them become more aware of themselves. And children are excellent at doing this and it goes now, going back to my question about where this comes from. You see, there's never been this discussion about leadership, but there's leadership versus ruling. So there's leading and there's ruling. Now, if you've probably read me talking about it, but for me, the root cause of all of this style of ruling rather than good leadership goes back to when we were at school. We were told what to do all the time. So we were, when we were young, we were conditioned into the idea and the thinking that there's the external authority out there, and the external authority knows best. Now, when we become a parent, subconsciously, we've become that external authority. So now we start ruling the children and telling them what to do all the time. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that, yeah. And I love that concept. It's leaders and rulers that's what we're seeing that's sort of going on in the world at the moment, isn't it? Do as I say and not as I do. Yeah, from very early on. And you've got to really, really foster that relationship. You're not just a good dad or a good mum, and that's it. It's a constant work in progress, like anything, like working towards your dreams or like building a business. It takes constant work and sitting down, having awkward conversations, having open conversations. Allowing your child. One thing that I made clear to Ellie from the moment we split up really is, just because you're female, and I'm your dad, not your mum. Don't feel like you can't talk to me about these things. You don't need wait till you go your mum's when you're on your period and just talk to your mum about it. We can talk about it, and it's always being open like that. And it's, you know, at the moment, it's absolutely amazing because of that, because I've constantly put work into it.
Yeah.
Like anything, I always say with the coaching I do, or with anything that's worth having in life takes work. That
Yeah.
can be your relationship with your romantic partner, that can be friendships, or that can be being a dad or being a mum, and you've got to put that work in. And if you don't, then don't expect good results.
Yeah, sure. You've hit upon another aspect of good leadership for me, is that you're putting yourself, and you've encouraged Ellie that you're ready to listen to her. And I think that's the number one act of a good leader, is the ability to listen to what the other people are saying. And when people, you see, it's so rare in today's society to find somebody that will actually listen to you properly, you know, and try to understand you rather than just say you're right or wrong, but literally listen to you. That we've all, so I actually think a lot of people are actually going around quite lonely because they've got nobody that they can actually talk to who will listen to them, and they're not listening to anybody else either. So, and you mentioned a constant work in progress. Well, this comes back to my other favorite topic, is learning. And what you're talking about is a constant work in progress. It means that you're forever learning. And by listening to the kid, you're sort of growing together, aren't you? Because you've never been this age and she's never been that age, and you've never been these ages together before. So every year is different than the previous one. So it is, you're right. It's a constant work in progress. And when we view it that way, then whenever we do have troubles or relationship conflicts, we'll easily get over it because we know there's a love and a respect between the two. Yeah.
Yeah, without a doubt, which has been, you know, built over time, over fostering that, Phil. And we're always learning. I think a lot of people think that learning kind of finishes when you leave school. The big one for me that kind of talk about a lot is the unlearning. I find far more difficult than the relearning. That's the it's unlearning a lot of the stuff that we've maybe has never served us, or maybe it's just not serving us now in the society that we're in. I'm not sure, because, you know, my mind hasn't always been open in the way that it is now. But unlearning a lot of that stuff that doesn't serve you anymore. I'm trying to, well, no, not I'm trying. I am trying to instill some stuff into Ellie, of stuff that I wish I hadn't learned, and stuff that I'm relearning now, as far as money goes, as far as education, and as far as like questioning the education that you're taught as well, rather than just taking this book or this play that you're studying at school on face value. This is what the teacher says it is, so that must be what it is. We had a really good discussion last night actually about Inspector Clues, and it was really talking about the socialist element of the social impact on all the people. Sorry, the social impact on the main character in the book, and how all these people have played the part, and how they kind of painted the capitalists as these bad guys in the book. So we had a really good discussion around that. That there's, you know, that's an element of society, and there's some amazing people doing great work under the umbrella of capitalism. So, and it got her thinking, you know, and which I absolutely love. She doesn't just agree with me on everything because I'm my dad. She challenges me and you know, disagrees with some of the stuff. Well, actually, Dad, I don't think that is right. Brilliant, you know. But this is why I think that, and she'll explain. Well, this is why I think it. So it's having those conversations is beautiful.
Do you learn things from her sometimes? Does she go? Do you go, wow, yeah? So
Most definitely.
So there you are. You're in the position as leader, but you're learning from the people that you're leading. Yeah.
No doubt about it, Phil. You know, when I worked at the rehabilitation unit, there was I worked my way up from support worker to manager, and a guy who was there at the time, who's still a good friend now, he said, I really appreciate that, you know, this guidance and what you've learnt me. And I said, listen, you know, I've learned so much from you as well. It's not just that you're learning from me, we're learning from each other, and it's that value exchange, which is amazing.
Yeah, definitely. We're covering a lot of the key words today, actually. I mean, this learning, you mentioned unlearning. Let me ask you another question then. If you're unlearning, what's your sort of 1 or 2 sentence summary of, if I ask you to remember what your 12 years of schooling was all about? Were you learning there, or what were you doing at school?
I think the very important element of school is learned from dealing with people. You know, I was quite shy at school, Phil. I'm a little bit sort of introverted, where, you know, I suppose really I'm the opposite now. So learning that on dealing with people, but a lot of the important stuff that I've learned since I left school. So I learned the basics. I absolutely got a real love from reading from school, which is carried on all through my life. So I'm really grateful for that. But you know, as I've told you when we chatted before, when I told a teacher at school that I wanted to be a writer, I wanted to be an author, and she said, "You need to do something a little bit more realistic than that. That's more of a hobby." And this came from somebody that was kind, caring, and very supportive. So one of the things that I pointed out in my first book, Dreams to Goals, is a lot of the time it's not these haters that put you off going after what you want in life. It's the people that care about you, that love you, and that think they know what's best for you. I would say I quite enjoyed school, and there were some important lessons, but I think there's a lot of the stuff that I learned what wasn't really necessary to everyday life, I don't think.
Yeah, no, that's spot on what you said about who they're trying to help you, but in fact it can actually turn out to be a hindrance, because I've had something like that come to me before, and what it does is it sort of, you start thinking about it and it overrides your instinct and your gut feel for what you were doing, and then you stop doing it.
Phil, that's exactly what happens. You know, that's the whole story. I was then bouncing from pillar to post, job to job, college course to college course, went traveling, you know, which some amazing experiences. But I thought that I didn't know what I wanted to do in my life, but I did know what I want to do in my life. I'd just been put off doing it. And you know, a lot of people talk about discovering your purpose, and I think it's more, I see it more as uncovering it. I think it's kind of always been there, but it's been all this dirt thrown on it of limiting beliefs, other people's opinions and stuff, to the point now where you've kind of got to like dig it back out. That's my experience of it, and that's what happens really.
Yeah, I think for me, what you've just described is a behavior that's very common, because I actually think that we're conditioned into it during our schooling. Now, what I would say about learning is that whenever we talk about learning, and you mentioned something where you said that we sort of think that learning finishes when we leave school, I would say learning stops when we go to school.
Yeah.
And Mark Twain, I have many quotes. I can't remember a single joke in life, but I've got loads of quotes in my head. Mark Twain, back in the 1800s, I don't know if you read this quote. He said, I never let my schooling interfere with my education.
I love that. Yeah, I love that.
And that suggests that the problems that I identify with school systems go back many generations. Now, some people say that it's been deliberately designed to undermine us in school, but that's conjecture. It doesn't really matter. What I would say about learning is there's the object of learning. So there's the motor skills, you know, with our body, and then there's the cognitive skills in the head. And so many people say, I'm not academic, I can't learn. Well, it's because, in fact, that during our schooling, we weren't even really taught how to learn, because it's all about knowledge and it's all about the head. But we're human beings, yeah, we're not robots. And all your talk about leadership is about being a human being, whereas the ruler is more of a robot, or more of a non-human. All the human essence gets sucked out of us, I think. And I just feel that you know, learning is ing. It's thinking and discerning and reading and listening and expressing yourself and articulating yourself. And you can't talk if you feel somebody's going to put you down or slap you down or call you this or whatever. So you don't talk. And if you don't talk, I heard Jordan Peterson say once, the whole purpose of having friends and discussing is to put things out there that might be really stupid, but you don't know until you've tested them with your friends.
Right.
So it's actually fascinating that, you know, I really feel that a lot of the problems, and I want to move on to the masculinity soon, but I really feel that a lot of the problems in society are because we've been repressed. We've had our innate skills and our curiosity and our creativity repressed during our schooling.
We have, Phil. We have, and you know, just to touch back on what you said there, be interesting. Get your thoughts on that. Do you think it's a deliberately flawed system, or do you think it's that outdated that it's no longer sort of playing to people's strengths, and it has done in the past, or it's always been flawed and intentionally?
Well, my view is it doesn't really matter. And it is conjecture, but once we know that the problem is there, once we understand the problem that exists, now it doesn't matter why it got there. Now what matters is that because we know the problem, the root causes, now we can have solutions. Because once you know what the nub of the problem is, now we know what to do. Might be difficult, but you can't sort of solve something until you know what all the issues are. Now, it may well have been put in there, but I feel that somewhere in the past, humanity made a wrong turning, and it came up with a gigantic misunderstanding, and it split matter from energy, and it split science from religion, and it split human beings from the rest of the animal kingdom. And yet, the law of nature is that everything in our web of life is interconnected. So because we were split in the past, now it's dog eat dog, and the stronger, the fittest, survival of the fittest, and all that sort of thing. Whereas in reality, if I walk down the street and I see a homeless person and I go and put £2 in his bowl, he smiles and says, "Bless you," and I feel good, he feels good, and that's the connection, isn't it? So I think once if we agree that this is the problem, then why it happened doesn't matter so much. And this comes back to something which I think you will have noticed, is that we all talk about they and the elites and the 1% and the people in power and so on that are doing this and that. And that's fair enough, because we see them doing it. But while we're focusing on them, it is conjecture, but also the problems within us and the solutions within us. So I feel let's decide what the problem is, and then independent of what other people are doing now. And I feel that that's probably what you've been doing your whole life, is doing exactly that.
Yeah, it is, you know, it's looking outside yourself, isn't it? That's what it is. That, like you say, they are the problem over here, and you know, people are under this illusion that a new leadership, if we can call them that, say that with a pinch of salt, come in and are all of a sudden radically going to change everything, because this party cares more about the people and this party cares all about money. And it's all a load of bollocks, really. It's the bottom line is you will win, and you will thrive if you want to win and thrive, regardless of who's in power, regardless of what's going on. You've got to be on a path that is completely separate from what's going on in the world. You are on this path and you are heading in this direction. No matter what is crumbling or going on around you, you're going towards where you want to go, and you're helping as many people on that journey as you possibly can. You know, it makes me laugh when I see these people that, well, in the UK, well, Labour will get in now after we've put up with these for so many years. And it's like, they eat at the same tables, they've got shares in the same companies, they've gone to the same schools. You know, they cut from the same cloth. They're just, it's an illusion of choice that they make a load of promises, they come in and they don't really change a lot, because they know they're in for a short space of time. They want to get what they can from it, not go in to give. And then we keep going round and round in that circle.
Well, so their bed partners, there's a third person in their bed, and that's the media.
100%. And you know, the people who are like, and which I get where they're coming from with this idea, that people have fought for you to get this vote. Yes, there's an element of truth to that, but people have fought for you to have the freedom to go on your path as you will, and you can go on your path regardless of voting a certain group of people in. They fought for the freedom that you've got to make these decisions, to go after what you want in life. I don't see it as like that they fought for you to get this vote, because to me it is just an illusion of choice.
Yeah, I agree with you. We didn't necessarily, we didn't have people necessarily fighting to get the vote. We had people fighting to stop government tyranny leaning down upon the ordinary human beings. You're right about the election. I mean, they are the same, and nothing changes. And I particularly, I've done a lot of reflecting on politics, and this is why I moved into spirituality, because it dawned on me one day that politics will disappear when problems disappear. They need problems. They are the problem. That is their life force. So you cannot solve any political problem with politics.
No, they create the problem and they offer the solution, don't they? And one of the things Andy Frisella talks about a lot is a lot of the predominantly black communities in the United States, which I don't live in the United States. I'm going off what he says, but they go in and they make all these promises each year, so they vote them in again, and then they don't fix any of them, and then they come back round and they vote for him again. And he said you need to be, more mindful of where you're going with that vote, because they don't want these issues to go. Because if those issues do go, like you've just said, Phil, they are completely irrelevant, and they're not needed.
They need us down pressed. So now, well, you'll know, because I see you making comments on this, and at the beginning, I reckoned I look at you as a motivator and an entrepreneur, but you definitely seem to be a motivator to me, because what you do is the work that you do and what you share in your social media is you're inspiring people to make changes in their life. And the reason that you're inspiring them is because you're asking them to do things that aren't beyond their capability at that moment. So, if you've always been in a comfort zone, it's very difficult to make changes because it's fearful and it's the unknown and so on. But what you do is you create, like one I saw the other day was don't watch the TV for a week. Now this is difficult for some people, but it's definitely achievable. And, I had some tasks in my own book, and one of them was to go to bed an hour earlier than normal, and to get up an hour earlier than normal and gain yourself an extra hour to do exercises or whatever it might be. And another one, what was the other one that you came out with recently? Not watching TV. Oh, go for an evening walk or something, was it? Go for an evening walk?
Yeah.
So, this is one step at a time. And it's so important in this day and age, because, basically 2020, I called it year zero. We're never going back, and we don't want to. People think they do, but they just want that comfort. But it was an illusory comfort that you talk about, because it's probably crutched on alcohol and drugs and pills and junk food and all that sort of thing. So so what I want to ask you is that you're on your pathway. You've stepped up and been counted, and you are helping others on their, get started, and you do excellent things. But what advice? So if we've got people listening to us who want to make changes, but it's like that New Year's resolutions phenomenon. By February 1st, they're finished. And what people don't realize is that their subconscious mind is blocking them from their progress. Have you got any practical tips for people listening that will enable them to get on the path of change? And then, one little success, well, I enjoy that, and now they're starting to enjoy change, and now they're on their path. How would you get them started on that path?
Well, the thing you're talking about there is it was a personal development tool that I released to combat New Year's resolutions. New year, new me. Like you say, February the 1st, everything's gone. So the pack of cards is 52 weeks of development. You turn a card over at the beginning of the week, and you complete that task just for the week, and go on to the next week, and then you turn another card over. the
There you
cards
go.
are there.
Yeah.
You put one to the back and you keep doing it. You know, to me, for me, that's an amazing tool, but you don't need to do that. You know, you just got to make a start on something that you've been putting off, I think. So if you've been putting off going for that walk, Phil, then bite the bullet, go for the walk, make a promise to yourself, but more importantly, keep that promise that you make to yourself. So many people make promises that, oh, I'm going to do this next week, I'm going to do that, and they don't follow through with them, which knocks your self-esteem, you know, that knocks your confidence, because you've got no confidence in yourself because you're not following through with what you said you're going to do. It's not about what you've told other people, it's about what you've told yourself. So if you say that, right, tomorrow morning I'm going to go for a walk, keep that promise. Don't look out and think there's two clouds over there, so I'm not going to go. Keep the promise that you made. And how, you know, 99% of the time when I go to the gym, I do not want to go. That's probably 99% of the time. There's 1% where I'm up and out. The rest of the time, could happily just not go. But once I go and I'm in there, I enjoy it, and when I come out, I feel absolutely amazing. So it's focusing on the feeling that you're going to get afterwards. And then once you just nail down one thing, just do one thing, and once you've nailed that and you've got that down and that's become a positive habit, then start stacking those positive habits on top of each other. I think that, don't look at, this is why the New Year's resolutions don't work. Everybody, they go in the cupboard, they throw away all the chocolate, they tip all the wine down the sink, they sign up for a gym membership, they hate the thought of going to the gym. And then when it all comes crumbling down, they wonder why, Phil, because they put that much pressure on themselves to do too much. Small tweaks will have huge impacts later on. Just a small tweak to your routine, just adding a little habit or taking a habit away, a bad habit away. And if you feel the need and you want to just spend a little bit of money to do something each year, then get the cards. You know, there's but you don't need them. That's the point. They are there for somebody that, if you really can't get disciplined, you turn the card over and you've got to do what it says on that card for the 7 days, and then you turn over the next one. So if you're struggling creatively to find what you want to do, or then that's for you. But if you've got something that you've been putting off, then just do that. Just do that and keep it going. And then when you feel comfortable that you're doing, like, you know, a lot of the time I'll go to the gym or do the exercise, and I've done it in automatic pilot, Phil. I'm in the car, I'm there, and I haven't really thought about going. I'm just there. And I think that's when it's got to the stage where it's just become a habit. Then it's just become something you do, and that's where you need to get to. That's where you want to get to. You don't need to get anywhere, but.
Well, that's what I put in my book. I said that, you know, at the beginning it's difficult, but what you're doing is you're retraining yourself into new habits. So, and in retraining yourself to a good new habit, you're probably going to lose one bad or harmful habit. And as you say, it's step by step, it's a process. But I think your cards are excellent, and we'll put a description below about how people can get them, because going back to what I said about when we're at school, we're conditioned to listen to external authority. At the same time, we don't learn to listen to our own intuition, instinct, conscience. All of that's been repressed. Our inner authority never got a chance to flourish. And this is why so many people struggle. They blame themselves. They lack self-worth, but it's not their fault. This is the thing. And this is why I don't like it when I hear people blaming other people, because it's just not their fault. The subconscious mind is blocking them. So your cards will really help. It's that external, not authority, it's that external boost that will get them started. So external motivation to begin with. Then, as you say, you feel the rewards, and now you begin to internally motivate yourself, and then it becomes a habit. So
yeah, definitely. And the idea being, Phil, that by the end of the year, you know, some of those habits have stuck with you. You haven't taken them all on. You've taken the ones on that really serve you. Like for the evening walk, I absolutely love the evening walk. One of the cards I think is getting up an hour earlier. Hated getting up an hour earlier. I'm not going to do that. But the evening walk, that actually really suited me and really sort of tied in with my routine. I'm going to do that now forever I'm going to carry that on. And it's taking the ones that, because we're all different, and different things work for us differently. For some people, the gym's absolutely amazing. Other people don't want to go to the gym, but they love a yoga session, sitting down, meditating, whatever. It's finding whatever works for you. And I think because there's a range of 52 things in there, people can pick the ones that actually that really, really works well for me. I'm gonna carry on doing that. And the evening walk, I went with my daughter, so it was amazing bonding time as well.
Perfect, wonderful. And and you've got long evenings now, haven't you? So it was a good time to pick that one.
And it is nice at the moment.
not in January or November or December. Good timing. No, that's fantastic. In my work in my classroom. I was sorry. I'm going to talk to you about Mars in a minute, but just my own teaching hat on. So your people that bought the cards, they're doing one new thing for a week each time. I'm always big on what I call learner logs and keeping a diary. And by keeping a diary, people have to write things down. And what this does, this changes another harmful habit, is that nobody gives themselves time and space to reflect upon life. So if you're keeping a diary, you have to create that space. And then you might go, well, actually, I don't like going to the gym, but every time I go, I really enjoy it and I feel really good afterwards, and so on. So in that reflective moment, it might cement your new habit and make it stronger as well, and actually give you a chance to work out which ones you prefer and not.
You want to be moving your body, Phil, don't you? In some way, shape, or form, you want to be moving your body each day, whether it's a walk, whether it's a gym, whether it's yoga, whatever it be. And people say, oh, you don't need exercise every day. Well, your body is designed to move. You do need to be moving every day. You don't need to be smashing heavy weights every day, but just getting out for a half an hour walk and in nature. And even when the weather's not so good, if you've got the right stuff on, it doesn't matter. You enjoy the walk. I love walking in the rain as long as I've got the right clothes on. Not if I'm caught in a shorts and t-shirt with how the weather can change here. But you've got the right clothes on. Any weather's good.
Yeah, definitely. I think so the Mars is this is about converting motivation into action. Mars it stands, M stands for motivation to do something, but as you know, motivation is not enough. So A is maybe your cards come in. A is action. So you start with the motivation, then you carry out the action. R stands for rewards. You feel the rewards, and the rewards. Oh, this is good, and you go sweet. or S can stand for success. And then you're in a positive cycle now, and so you can keep going round, and so it's definitely, and so that goes back to your point where people try to make the big change on January the 1st, and then you're right, it's worse that they do this, because then it's knocked their self-worth even more. I still can't do it. I'm useless at making changes. It
becomes that self-fulfilling prophecy then Phil, doesn't it? That's the thing that I start and I don't stick to anything. No, you have started and you haven't stuck to it. It doesn't mean you've got to wait till the next January the 1st. This is the thing, you can start any day. You don't need to wait till Monday. You can start Tuesday, Wednesday. Just start. You say about the quotes earlier, Phil. I've got some quotes I love, but my favourite one probably is the Rumi quote: "As you step out on the way appears." And I think you can apply that to anything, to a relationship, to business, that you don't need to have it all figured out in your head. As you step out, the way will then start appearing for you exactly as it should do. And as you start, whether it's on a fitness journey, whether it's on a health journey, or whether it's learning, that as you start initially, different things will start coming to you then. I've been on the cold plunges. Funnily enough, wasn't very well yesterday, so I didn't do it yesterday. But doing a cold plunge like most days, and that was that's phenomenal. But I would never have even read about that if I wasn't exercising. I wasn't doing the other things. Like I say, you just start then stacking stuff up on top of each other. And if you do miss a day, don't get down on yourself and beat yourself up, but make sure you do it the next day.
Yeah, Totally. Yeah, I call it a wellness wagon. If you fall off your wagon, don't use that as an excuse to not get back on again. Just get back on when you can. And I want to say to anybody listening as well, because I hear lots of people talking about spiritual matters and changing and all their success stories, but I'm stepping out of my comfort zone big time for the last 2 years, building my new venture and so on. And I've finally, after 2 years of building, I got to the action stage, as you know. And I can tell you, it can be bloody scary. There's no doubt about it. And I've done tons of work on myself for 25, 30 years. And so it's always a scary thing to do. So that's another thing that somewhat frustrates me, is that you get all these gurus who speak as if everything's easy and just do it this way. And it makes it even harder for people listening because, oh, look how easy it is for them. Why can't I do it? Not good.
Massively. I'm massively on board with that, Phil. I listened to a guy called Andy Frisella, and he did the 75 Hard program, and I listened to him for that exact reason that you just spoke about. He makes no thingy that this is a difficult journey. Yeah. If you're on a journey to pursuing anything good, whether it be health, and whether it be wealth, or whether it be building something, it's hard. And he says you'll get these gurus who are making out that you sign onto this program and everything will be perfect. And he says it's fucking lies. Yes. He for 10 years he was making $650 a month for 10 years, but he kept on going. He's now a multi-millionaire. He's got a very impressive car collection, but more importantly, he's helping people worldwide. And if he'd have stopped in those difficult times, he wouldn't be now helping all the amazing. He wouldn't be doing the amazing work that he's doing. And it tells you that this is not an easy journey. You're gonna lose friendships, you're gonna have arguments in your relationships. You're gonna look at your bank balance and think, where the fuck is it all? He says, but the rewards are going to come later. It's not that instant gratification. It's you're putting one step in front of the other, winning the day, as he calls it, and then you'll look back later on and it will be well worth it. But some people, like you've just said, Phil, don't even start because of that fear, where, as Rumi says, when you step out on the way appears. Don't worry about it all being overwhelming. Just focus on what do I need to do today that's taking me closer to where I want to be, and then tomorrow's a new day, and then look at, right, what do I need to do tomorrow that's going to take me closer.
Definitely. And to people listening to us, the worst thing that can happen to anybody is that they get to their last day and the janitor from heaven's arrived for their collection and they're on their deathbed and they've got this whole list of regrets. It's too bloody late. It's too late.
Too late.
Yeah. And then you've got tomorrow-itis. Well, I just won't. I'll do it tomorrow. But you wake up, it's another today.
Yeah, without a doubt. That regrets, Phil. That's so powerful, isn't it? I love the Les Brown where he said, "Imagine the ghosts of all your dreams, all your ambits standing around your bed, and they're saying, we came to you, and you didn't bring us to life, and now we're going to die with you." So powerful that for me. That's really pushes me on to, I want to leave a legacy and I want to help people. So it's just keep pushing forward and forward and forward.
Yeah, well, you're really good at that. You're excellent at doing that. And so that's the other problem with our schooling, is that we've been conditioned amongst millions of things to dread failure and to dread looking stupid or silly. And so we don't take action, because in that way we're safe, aren't we? We can't look stupid, we can't fail. But failure, inverted commas, is a stepping stone to success, and I used to tell my language students, the Thai people, if you're going to make mistakes, it's going to be learning a second language. You're going to make mistakes all the time. And so I used to tell them, look, when you make mistakes, that's how you're going to learn. So the more mistakes you make, the more you're going to learn, the better you're going to speak English. And that's the way it goes. And once they got it in their head, they were liberated, absolutely liberated. And everybody loved the classrooms, because they're learning. They're coming to the classroom. And so I love it as a teacher, because when they're all learning and they're all going, blimey, 3 hours, I thought it was just an hour, it's gone. And it's very rewarding.
Amazing stuff. And what a perfect example, Phil, of learning that language. If you were scared of failing, you're never going to pick up that language, because you've got to
Yeah.
say something and be like, what's he just said, or what she just said.
Yeah.
You've got to make those mistakes, and it all becomes part. And I think the other thing, me and my brother spoke about the other day, because he's on a business journey in a different way. But you think that road to success is just up, 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 where it's more like the Big Dipper.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Totally. Now look, let's just change tack a little bit before we finish off. Because here in Thailand, we don't have this. The divide in society is not as big as it is in Western countries at the moment. There's always a divide everywhere.
That's great to hear, yeah.
But there's a lot more community and unity here as well, you know, and I've always found that, and that's one of the reasons I've lived here so long. But I am aware of all the wokeism going on and all this division, and you know, and I thought that humanity was making really good progress at the outset of this century in terms of, you know, inclusivity and everybody getting on with everybody. And then the media and the government started banging on about race and gender and all this sort of thing. So we've got all of this. And then we've had this sort of attack on men and so on. And I know you do a lot of work with masculinity. And you know, for me, there's men and women. I don't even know what all these other genders are. Forget about it. There's men and women. So men and women are a physical, gender, natural birth kind of thing. And then for me, there's the force, the energy force of masculinity and femininity, and everybody. So I've got a ratio. I've got this amount of masculinity and this amount of femininity, whatever that ratio is. And that's why you get some girls who are tomboys and some men who are sort of more sensitive and so on. So can you tell everybody listening, like, what, you know, what your view is or what work you're doing on masculinity? Because you said before we came on that you're working with dads and so on. I'd perhaps just talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think there's an attack on masculinity, predominantly in the Western world. Because if you attack masculinity, the fighting age men, as we look at them, you know, can't stand up to tyranny. But I don't think, thinking about this, actually, funnily enough, that you've mentioned that, Phil, thinking about this over the last few days, that there's kind of an attack on everything.
Yes.
There's an attack on, you know, on women with these transgender sports stars. Even in MMA fighting, you know, it's basically physically, it's a woman being beaten up by a man. So women have fought for this, and they're kind of undoing a lot of the work that's been fought for, I think, over the years. And then you can look at the attack on children with, you know, pushing this sexuality in schools and things, which you see about it, but it's you've also got to put it into perspective of whether it's actually going on for you. And when I speak to my daughter about school, she enjoys school. I went into school for a Parents' Day, and there's a lot of motivational quotes around, which really give me quite a lift, actually. That was what a school was like, because if you read what you read on social media or wherever you read it, it paints quite a bleak view. I actually also saw the kids from the first school out on the cycle proficiency the other day. And I thought, oh, they're not just teaching them that there's 100 different genders, then they are still learning how to ride a bike and stuff as well. But yeah, you know, you've got to have your head buried in the sand if you can't see that there's been an attack on masculinity. That Gillette advert was a big one, making out that these traits that you've got as a man, there's something wrong to be a go-getter, even down to kids having a little bit of a punch up. There's nothing wrong with that, in my opinion, if that doesn't get out of hand. And people frown upon that. But 10 years ago, that wasn't anything to even be frowned upon. If two kids had a scrap at school, nobody really batted an eyelid. The teacher, they got a bit of a clip round the ear, or they got told off. But most of the time, that altercation was solved there and then. Young lads fight, older lads fight. You know, these things happen, and this toxic masculinity, as they call it. I couldn't think of a word. I couldn't think of two words that do not go together as the same. What the same toxic masculinity is, and in my opinion, an absence of masculinity. I work with people from the criminal justice system, And what a lot of those guys have got who would display these toxic masculine traits, as they call them, is it's an absence of masculinity, Phil.
Right.
They haven't had that positive male role model in their life, or they've had no male role model at all.
Yeah.
So you've got a lot of single mums bringing up lads, and people will not be pleased. I'm a bit triggered about me saying this, but a young lad or young girl need a positive male role model in their life. It does not necessarily have to be dad, but it has to be granddad, uncle, older brother. There's got to be a positive male role model. Sure. And you get this on Father's Day, particularly, is the big one. A mum puts a post up of Happy Father's Day to me as well, because I've done both jobs. No, you haven't. You've potentially done an absolutely amazing job as a mother, but you have not filled that male. You've not fulfilled that male role. And Zuby said that somewhere along the line we were told that we didn't need men, and we're now living through the consequences of that. And I completely am on board with that. What is going on now with a lack of discipline, with a lot of the stuff going on in society, you found that we were well on board with what happened over the last three or so years, Phil, and that was predominantly females who were standing up, talking about that and speaking out about that. It was very few men in ratio to males and females. Yeah. Even at the marches and stuff, even the truckers thing in Canada, they were organised by strong females in leadership roles, and we're lacking strong male leadership. We've got probably the worst president who has ever been in power in the United States, and an absolute shambles of leadership here in the UK as well. We know that they aren't running a show. Well, most people know that they aren't running the show, but they at least had somebody in who people listen to. Trump was massively divisive. A lot of the things that he certainly, as you spoke about in Thailand, he certainly did not bring people together. But he had that strong male essence to him, at least. And that's massively lacking. So, working with guys to bring, and I think the other important thing is, Phil, is having these strong male role models around you as well. The amount of people who settle down and then they cut off the male friends and they just stay at home. I think you need masculine energy around you. So that's why I run the seat at the table events, to bring men together who've got a winning mindset, who want to win. And it was funny that when I first did that first event, somebody basically said on LinkedIn that if you can't see a problem with this, you are the problem. It was a woman who said it. And you've got mums in business, you've got mums and daughters group. There's all these amazing groups for women to bring women together in the community, and it's very much lacking for men. It's very, very much lacking, and it's missing. And I think society, how it is at the moment, has shown us that's been missing. You look at COVID. The first thing they did is they closed the pubs and everything, where men could get together and talk about what was going on in the world. They took that away so that people, strong men, strong male characters, weren't getting together going, hold on a minute, this doesn't fucking make sense. They took that away. Same with the football. These things were the last places to open after everybody had realised it was all a load of nonsense. Well, no, not everybody. Certainly everybody didn't realise. A lot of people. But those were the last places to open, and they were the last places to open for a reason, because men get together there, they talk, and they've got each other's backs, I think, in those situations. But that is, we've got that in a pub culture, but have we got that in a sort of personal development arena? I don't think so much. I think that's missing at the minute.
Totally. Yeah, very good points. And it's good that you're doing the rectification work, if you like. And you said something that for me is absolutely true, that if there's an attack on masculinity, there's an attack on the whole. because it goes back to my point that everything's interconnected, and there's masculinity in the women and in the men. And if you attack masculinity, you're actually attacking femininity, because now it's lost its yin and yang connection. That symbol of yin and yang is perfect. It's the complementary pairs, isn't it? And
it is, and that's why you're seeing these, which is amazing. That's why you're seeing these women step into these roles, like the lady who organised the trucker event, because the men aren't there to do it, and we've got to question why they aren't there to do it. And this maybe will ruffle people's feathers, but when you've got pictures of people like Harry Styles on the front page of magazines in like a dress and stuff, very much feminizing men. If you want to wear a dress, there is nothing at all wrong with that. You go and do what you want to do, but putting that on the front page of a magazine as if that is the norm, we know it isn't. So don't try and make out it is, because that is not the norm. He could have just as much stood on there with a nice suit on, and there's no doubt about it that it wasn't him making the decision of what he was going to wear on that photo shoot. It wasn't, it's from the powers above him, and there's a narrative. There's a narrative there. We will feminize men and emasculate them as much as we can, and the more we push that into society, that these characteristics, being this go-getter and going after what you want is wrong. You don't need to be competitive. You now get a trophy for just taking part. It's all ties into the same narrative.
Yeah, definitely. What you've said about the media manipulation. For me, that's evidence that there is a higher force at work, deliberately undermining society. They've attacked white people, females, males, masculinity. They never stop. So for me, the definition of wokeism is I hate life, and I'm going to attack everybody. So, wokeism to me is the ego that's run amok. It's got zero spiritual or heart or soul counterbalancing force.
No, it doesn't.
So it's anti-life, anti-fun, anti-health, anti-human. And if you let it, it will destroy you, because that's all it wants to do.
You've got supposedly the inclusive crew who are everything but inclusive. They want everybody to look different, but they want everybody to think and speak the same. And should you speak differently than what they're on you, they're straight on you. We see that with Jordan Peterson. We see it with Andrew Tate. I know both of those people are divisive characters, but because they're not saying the same things as these people, that they're on them. So they're the most destructive people. There's nothing about inclusivity, about what they push at all. It's the complete opposite.
Yeah, it is. It's
and it is dangerous.
It's very dangerous. It's part of the whole of humankind, and to me, it's a disease within the human mind. It's a self-destructive disease that we have to deal with, because it's almost as if humans have fallen out of love with themselves. They've lost their self-respect and self-love, and so this is why relationships are struggling everywhere, because we've been manipulated and we haven't seen what's been going on. It began with political correctness and it's morphed into wokeism. And what I've noted, Darren, is that if an ego, we'll call it an ego, but if an ego comes at me and attacks me in some way, and if I defend myself, then it confirms to the ego that it was correct. If I attack the ego back, it confirms to the ego that it was correct. So I can't defend myself and I mustn't attack the ego. So because I'm a teacher, I sit back and I just ask questions that will tie them up in knots. And maybe they can learn themselves in that case. So we have. And so I think, whatever work you're doing, and I know there's a lot of people doing work on it, it's a rebalancing factor, isn't it? It's just saying, no, we need masculinity. It's part of being human.
It is, I read a book called Boys Will Be Boys, which is there's something of toxic masculinity, and I read it for research purposes, Phil, for writing my new book.
Yeah.
And it triggered me. There's no doubt about it that at first reading this book, it triggered me. As the book went on, I really started feeling sorry for this woman who wrote the book. There was no anger there towards her then. It was pity, because everywhere she looked, she saw nothing but injustice. So it was a patriarchal society where men rule with an iron fist and they've oppressed women. If the world was run by women, Phil, she would see that there wasn't enough women of ethnic minority.
Yeah.
If the world was run by women with different ethnicities, there wouldn't be enough trans people. All this woman saw everywhere she looked was injustice.
Yes.
And like you've just said, they've took the fun and everything out of everything. And it was just like, what a sad world. What a sad world perspective you've got when that is all you're seeing wherever you're looking, that somebody is oppressing somebody. And somebody on my Facebook who's, quite a socialist, and she put about the St. George's flag that, I don't celebrate this day because it's racist. And I said, it depends what lens you're looking at things through. Of course, there is racist people who will use a flag for racist purposes. There's also tradition, respect, love for the country.
Yeah.
It all depends which lens you're looking at things through. They're both there, but it's what you choose to focus on.
The problem is that when people are looking at life through this lens, they've made the mistake of thinking that it out there is the truth, but there's nothing out there without you or me interpreting and connecting with it. So they,
without doubt,
it's a big thing. Humanity needs to start to love itself again. It needs leaders. It needs people to learn all the time. It needs people to get themselves out of their comfort zone. It needs people to step out onto the pathway. I think we've covered quite a lot, actually. It's been
we have really enjoyed that.
I'm mindful of the time, so we might try and wind this down a bit. But yeah, I've really enjoyed talking to you about that, Darren, because you've got all these kinds of ideas and you're really proactive for it. So you're a good force in England. And I like the fact that I wanted to say something earlier, but our conversation moved in other directions. But you mentioned that one of your books was the positive stuff and the other one was focused on the negative things. But I call this the elephant in the room. And if we don't look at the elephant in the room, we will never escape the negative energy that's trapped us, because the elephant in the room is what's blocking us. That is our problem. That is, I am the architect of all my troubles from my reaction to what's going on out there. Of course, there's shit going on out there, but we can choose other reactions, can't we?
We can, and that's that somebody said actually about that, considering you wrote Dreams to Goals, that book's quite negative. And I said, what it's doing is it's shining a light on these things so that you navigate them.
Yes.
And don't get pulled into them. You don't let these things, like the mainstream media, like Who's in Power, take your power away from you, because that's what they will do if you get drawn into it. If you're getting drawn in, if you're waiting for your life to change by who next gets in power, you're going to be waiting like a long, long, long time. You've got to take action on what you want to do, regardless of who's in it. And really, in a sense, forget about who's in, forget about who's in power. It doesn't make any difference. Forget about what's going on in the news. One of the things when I was a kid, and I said a bit more introverted when I was younger, and when we first went on holiday, I was looking for people on the plane that looked like a suicide bomber, because it had been that drilled in through the news and stuff. And I was a kid, Phil, so I wasn't like I was watching the news. It was just on in the household. And spiders coming in, a punny to strawberries, killer bees, all these crazy things that, like, none of it ever materialized into anything. Of course, there was odd occasions where terrible things happened, but it was made out as if like this was a regular occurrence, and it was all, as we spoke about, just fear, fear, fear. So yeah, you know, if I could recommend one thing, it was like switch that TV off
Yep.
to the news anyway, and
Totally.
sort of mainstream TV, because that will really take your power away from you. You know, a bit like tongue in cheek, but how many times do people sit with the partner or the kids, watch the news, and it finish and go, I feel great after that. Not at all. You know, that never happens. And when I was a kid, it used to always end on one good story, and I don't even know if that's a thing anymore. I don't even know if there's that little story at the end that gives people a little bit of hope, or whether that even exists anymore. Because I haven't watched the media, the mainstream media, for years and years.
Yeah.
But I would hazard a guess that it doesn't even end on a good story anymore.
Yeah, I would as well. Yeah, I call the media, because of our schooling, the way I call media the textbooks for adults. And also the media are definitively energy vampires. They will suck your energy out of you. And one of the things, I don't know if it's in your 52 cards, but one of the ones in my book was to go on a news fast. And then my friend has just started one about a month ago, and he's reveling in it. His teaching's got better. Everything's changing because he's gone on a news fast. And so, you know, just by not letting that negative energy come into you, there's space for so much positive energy. So yeah, I mean,
there is, and
yeah.
Sorry, Phil.
No, carry on.
Yeah, there is, and there's ways of finding out what's, mine came from, I read a book by Daniel Priestley years and years ago, and one of the things he said is he recommended to switch the news off, switch the news off, and he said because 98% of it doesn't even in any way, shape, or form relate to your life. So there might be an earthquake in Australia. In Australia, there might be an earthquake somewhere in the world that's absolutely horrific, but you cannot do anything about that. But what you can do is go out into your own community and help a charity or something that's set up in your own community to make that positive change. You know, of course, people do travel across the world to go and help these different causes, but he says 98% of it doesn't relate to you, and the 2% that does will find you if it needs to. You don't need to watch it on the news. It will come to you anyway if you need to find it out. People have gone missing, rightly or wrongly. People have gone missing in the UK, and somebody would say, "Oh, have you heard such hasn't seen been found?" And I don't even know that this person's gone missing. I didn't even know anything about it, because unless I'm going to get out there and start looking for this person, it doesn't mean that I can't. I haven't got sympathy for the family and stuff because of what's happened. But the fact that controlling what you can change, is more important than watching something that you've got no control over whatsoever.
Yeah, that's empowering, and we've been disempowered, and that's why we suck in the media. And I feel that, if we're prepared to, so that goes back to your book, if we're prepared to look at the darkness and become aware of the darkness, that's when, the self-awareness is the torch that lights up the darkness. And then now we know it, and we don't have to try and get rid of it or hide from it or run from it. There it is, doesn't matter. It now becomes almost like a little friend. Oh, there you are, you little bugger. No, I'm not listening to you today. And off you go, and you go and do your stuff.
Love it. Love that.
Brilliant. Well, we better stop. We could probably carry on for another hour or so. It could be quite easy, but it's been fantastic talking to you, Darren. I sort of expected a good conversation, and I think I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's been amazing, Phil. We always have a good chat. Really appreciate you having me on, mates, and loved it.
Well, send me your links and things, and then I'll put them in the description box. And let's keep on our respective paths and see what happens next.
Most definitely, and hopefully it cools down a little bit for you and warms up a little bit for me.
Yeah, we'll send you a few degrees. It should do in a week's time. When we get to June, it should cool down. We'll see. So I'll push it over to you.
Yeah, but hopefully in July going over to the States now that the restrictions and everything are being dropped, because my partner, that's where she's from. So
Right.
and she says it's going to be red hot, and as if it's a bad thing. And I'm like, I'm looking forward to it because it rains most of the time.
Yeah, of course, definitely. Well, when are you going?
End of July, Phil.
Good stuff.
Soon as the kids get out of school and stuff, I think
Yeah.
probably just a couple of days later.
Good stuff. Right. Well, thanks, Darren, and thank you, everybody, for viewing and listening to our conversation. I hope you've enjoyed it. And if you did enjoy it, then please subscribe to my channel and share this conversation far and wide. And let's make humanity a beautiful, loving, respectful force of energy again. I think you'd agree. And thanks again, Darren.
Thank you, Phil.